The first time I saw her, she was standing on the observation deck of the celestial nexus, her iridescent gown shimmering like starlight. Her skin was a soft lavender hue, and her eyes, those mesmerizing galaxy-like eyes, seemed to hold the secrets of the universe. She was Princess Lorena of the Zephyrian Empire, heir to the most powerful dynasty in the known galaxy. And I, a lowly human diplomat, had just made the biggest mistake of my life. It all started with a handshake. I had been sent to the Celestial Nexus as part of a delegation to negotiate a trade agreement between Earth and the Zephyrian Empire. The Zephyrians were a proud and ancient race, their technology far surpassing anything humanity had ever dreamed of. They were also notoriously rigid in their customs and traditions. I had been briefed extensively on their etiquette, but no one had mentioned anything about handshakes. When I approached Princess Lorena, I extended my hand in what I thought was a universal gesture of goodwill. She hesitated for a moment, her eyes widening in surprise, before she placed her delicate hand in mine. The moment our skin touched, a strange sensation coursed through me, a tingling warmth that seemed to resonate deep within my soul. I thought nothing of it at the time, but that simple handshake would change my life forever. The next day, I was summoned to the throne room of Emperor Zorith, Lorena's father. The massive chamber was adorned with towering crystalline pillars that pulsed with an otherworldly light. The emperor himself sat upon a throne carved from what appeared to be a single, massive gemstone. His presence was overwhelming, his gaze piercing as he regarded me with a mixture of curiosity and disdain. Human, he began, his voice resonating like a deep, melodic hum. Do you know what you have done? I swallowed hard, my mind racing. Had I offended him somehow? Broken some sacred Zephyrian law? I'm not sure, Your Majesty, I stammered. If I have caused any offense, I deeply apologize. The Emperor leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. You offered a handshake to my daughter. In our culture, such a gesture is not merely a greeting. It is a binding ritual, a sign of commitment and intent. By offering your hand to her, you have declared your desire to join with her in the most sacred of unions. My heart skipped a beat. Wait, what? I didn't mean... Silence, the Emperor roared, his voice echoing through the chamber. You have invoked an ancient tradition, one that cannot be undone. According to our laws, you must now father her heirs. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. Father her heirs? This had to be some kind of mistake. Your Majesty, surely there's been some misunderstanding. I had no idea. Your ignorance is irrelevant, the Emperor interrupted. The ritual has been completed. The bond has been formed. You will fulfill your obligation or face the consequences. The consequences, as it turned out, were dire. Refusing to comply would not only result in my execution, but would also sever diplomatic ties between Earth and the Zephyrian Empire, plunging humanity into a war we could never hope to win. I had no choice but to accept my fate. Princess Lorena, however, seemed far more understanding than her father. When I was escorted to her private chambers later that evening, she greeted me with a gentle smile. I apologize for my father's harshness, she said, her voice soft and melodic. He is bound by tradition, as are we all, but I do not wish to force you into anything against your will. I sighed, running a hand through my hair. This is also insane. I didn't mean to. I know, she interrupted, placing a hand on my arm. And I believe you, but the bond we share is real. I felt it too when we touched. It is rare, even among my people, to experience such a connection. I looked into her eyes, searching for some sign that this was all a joke, some elaborate prank. But there was only sincerity. So, what happens now? I asked. Lorena smiled. Now, we get to know each other. The bond we share is not just about producing heirs. It is about unity, about two souls coming together as one. If we are to fulfill this obligation, we must do so with open hearts and minds. Over the next few weeks, I found myself drawn to Lorena in ways I couldn't explain. She was intelligent, compassionate, and fiercely independent. We spent hours talking about our respective cultures, our dreams, and our fears. She showed me the wonders of the Zephyrian Empire, floating cities, star gardens, and ancient temples that seemed to hum with a life of their own. And as the days turned into weeks, I began to see her not as an alien princess, but as a kindred spirit. But the shadow of our obligation loomed over us. The Emperor made it clear that time was of the essence. The Zephyrian Empire needed an heir, and the longer we waited, the more restless the court became. Lorena and I both knew that we couldn't delay forever. One night, as we stood together on the observation deck, watching the stars streak by in a kaleidoscope of light, Lorena turned to me. "Are you ready?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding in my chest. "I think so," I replied. "But I'm scared. What if I'm not enough? What if I fail?" Lorena reached out and took my hand, her touch sending a familiar warmth through me. "You are enough," she said firmly, "and you are not alone. We are in this together." The ceremony was unlike anything I had ever experienced. It took place in the heart of the celestial nexus, in a chamber filled with swirling energy and pulsating light. Lorena and I stood at the center, surrounded by the Zephyrian elders, their voices chanting in a language I couldn't understand. The air was thick with anticipation, and I could feel the weight of centuries of tradition pressing down on me. As the ritual reached its climax, Lorena and I were instructed to join hands once more. The moment our skin touched, the chamber erupted in a blinding light, and I felt a surge of energy unlike anything I had ever experienced. It was as if our souls were merging, becoming one. And in that moment, I knew that this was more than just an obligation. It was destiny. Months later, Lorena and I stood together in the same chamber, this time holding our newborn son. He was a perfect blend of our two species, his skin a soft lavender like his mother's, but with the unmistakable features of a human. The Emperor, who had once regarded me with disdain, now looked upon me with a newfound respect. "You have done well," he said, his voice filled with pride. "You have honored our traditions and secured the future of our empire. For that, you have my gratitude." I looked down at my son, his tiny hand gripping my finger, and felt a surge of emotion. This wasn't how I had imagined my life would turn out, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. I had found a new home, a new family, and a love that transcended the stars. As Lorena leaned against me, her head resting on my shoulder, I knew that this was only the beginning. Together, we would navigate the challenges of ruling an empire, of raising a child who would one day inherit the throne. And though the road ahead would be difficult, I was ready to face it with her by my side.